Good morning. Welcome to our worship service of Kitsap Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Some of us are attending the service here in the sanctuary, and some of us are attending online. Welcome to all. I invite you to follow along in the order of service. For those attending online, all the links for this service, including the order of service, are on our website and in this morning's worship service email. For those present in the sanctuary this morning, please silence your cell phones. It will help those who are, who are attending online to hear better. We are recording this service, and it will be available to view later. Whoever you are, and wherever you have come from, for this hour, we here are one gathered congregation, and all are welcome. My name is Nancy Slate, and I'm currently a member of the board and on the worship team, and I'm delighted to be here in the pulpit this morning. This is a historic Sunday. It is the first time in 21 months that we have worshiped together in the sanctuary. Our worship leader this morning is the Reverend Jessica Starr Rockers, our own settled minister. I'd like to welcome any visitors. Please introduce yourselves after the service to the greeters if you are here in the sanctuary, or at our Zoom coffee time if you are attending online. We welcome those attending online to join the Zoom coffee time. The link is in the email that went out this morning and will show on the screen following our worship service. You will need to use the password coffee with a capital C to be admitted to the coffee time. If you are present in the sanctuary, we won't have coffee after the service, but you are welcome to greet each other outside following the service. KUUF announcements and events are available on our website at www.kuuf.org or our weekly email newsletter, The Candle. We acknowledge that the land on which we gather is the Aboriginal territory of the Suquamish people. Expert fishermen, canoe builders, and basket weavers, the Suquamish live in harmony with the lands and waterways along Washington's Central Salish Sea for thousands of years. Here, the Suquamish live and protect the land and waters of their ancestors for future generations, as promised by the Point Elliott Treaty of 1855. Now, please enjoy our call to worship. It is time to come home. This was especially composed for this service by Mike Minifee and is performed by Mike Minifee and Brian Kinney. Those of you attending online are encouraged to sing along. The words will appear on your screen. Those of you in the sanctuary are welcome to hum along as strongly as you wish.
We'll join in the circle. Welcome home.
It is time to come home. Welcome, everyone. I am Reverend Jessica. I am so happy to see you all here this morning and to know that so many more are logged in at the same time and watching us online. In this time of Advent and Hanukkah, in this season of solstice and waiting for the return of the light, we are coming home again today. And I want to take this moment this morning to bless this space in which we find ourselves. This space has changed. How we gather in it has changed. And all of us have changed as well. So I invite us this morning to settle into our bodies here in this space and breathe together as I open our worship this morning with a prayer. Spirit of life and love, we find ourselves again here in this sanctuary that holds our beloved community. Those with us here physically, those attending online, and those who are with us in spirit this morning. Together we move with courage through another threshold moment. Together we bless with gratitude our tech today, our cameras that connect us to one another, those of us here in the sanctuary with all of those attending from home. We bless the air we share, the breath in our bodies, the very breath of life that is getting circulated and refreshed in this room at an impressive rate, keeping us healthy. We bless our new HVAC system. We bless the vaccines we received, the masks we wear, and the distance we maintain. It takes some effort to be together in this new way and try to refrain from touching too much or standing too close together. May our bodies be blessed as we try to get them to pause, to ask consent before reaching out for a hug, to stay at a respectful distance. And we bless those of us who have the courage to name our needs to be more distanced, that we may feel comfortable doing so. And we bless our voices that once used to sing together in this space, but today will be humming instead. We bless all the ways that today is different and new. May we find comfort in this moment, the solace and the spirit that we seek, and may we release any attachment to perfection and invite grace into those places in our hearts and minds that are still adjusting. And we bless our worship today. May we continue to have courage, lean into love, and honor this tender moment. To all of us here in this physical space and all of us gathered at home, I say, we have been truly blessed. So come, everyone, and let us worship together.
Please join me now in lighting our chalice. If you have your own chalice or candle at home, please light it as I read our chalice lighting words. Deep calls unto deep, joy calls unto joy, by Gordon McKeeman. Deep calls unto deep, joy calls unto joy, light calls unto light. Let the kindling of this flame rekindle in us the inner light of love, of peace, of hope. And as one flame lights another, nor grows the less, We pledge ourselves to be the bearers of the light wherever we are. Our opening hymn is number 275 in our gray hymnal that's singing the living tradition. And the hymn is Dark of Winter. And actually, it's number 55. It was written by Brian Wren, a contemporary English hymn writer, who also wrote 7 other hymns in the gray hymnal. Please join in singing at home or humming here in the sanctuary our opening hymn, Dark of Winter. The lyrics will appear on the screen. Please join me now in our spoken affirmation. The words will appear on your screen. We gather as a caring community seeking life's deeper meanings. We value diversity and affirm the worth of all living things. We strive to speak truth in love, to act for justice, to grow in spirit, and to care for the earth. We celebrate with open hearts and minds the creative power that sustains and transforms us. Now it is the time for our morning offering. Planned Parenthood is our chosen recipient for our charitable giving for the month of December. Please enjoy this short video about their services.
My name is Gail Davis, and I'm a member of the Kitsap Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. Today I'm speaking about Planned Parenthood as a recipient of our charitable giving. My grandmother, Marie McCall, had 12 children. She was very clear about her feelings toward motherhood. Pragmatically, she accepted what she could not change. She had no source of birth control. Grandma always said she would not take $1 million for one of her children. However, she followed that up with, and I would not give a plugged nickel for another one. Grandma lived in another time when some farmers had large families to help with the many chores required to run an orchard, lay in crops, and finally milk 80 dairy cows. They didn't have money, but they always had food. But that's not the case for people all around the world. We have a pretty clear idea of how long our small planet could sustain human population if all families had 12 children. And the basics, such as food and water, would be the first to go. Aside from the finite availability of fresh water, there are constraints on the amount of food that the earth can produce. By 2025, the world population will be over 8 billion people. Around 2040, it could hit 9 billion, and by 2100, it could reach a massive 11 billion people. And we are already overusing our resources at 160%. But Planned Parenthood provides so much more than access to birth control and family planning. Early this year, I was diagnosed with cancer. My oncologist told me that proportionally, Black women took longer to seek medical attention and receive diagnosis and medical intervention. My stage 1 diagnosis was often a stage 4 for them. Why? Because they lacked medical insurance to keep them from going to a doctor. Planned Parenthood services include abortion, birth control, cancer screening, emergency contraception, health and wellness, pregnancy, education on sex and relationships, sexually transmitted infections, and sexual orientation and gender. Planned Parenthood is America's most trusted provider of reproductive health care. Skilled healthcare professionals are dedicated to offering all people high-quality, affordable medical care. 1 in 5 American women has chosen Planned Parenthood for health care at least once in her life. These health care centers provide a wide range of safe, reliable health care, and the majority is preventative care, which helps prevent unintended pregnancies through contraception, screen for cervical and other cancers, and reduce the spread of sexually transmitted infections through testing and treatment. Caring physicians, nurse practitioners, and other staff take time to talk with clients, encouraging them to ask questions in an environment that millions of women have grown to trust. Recently, the Fifth Court of Appeals ruled that Texas and Louisiana can cut off Medicaid to Planned Parenthood clinics. That restricts women's ability to seek a legal abortion along with those seeking cancer screenings, birth control, and other non-abortion related health services, even in states where Planned Parenthood clinics do not offer abortions. 6 newly appointed conservative judges now sit on that court. The trend is real and impactful. I believe that we at KUUF can make a difference in our area, in our state, and our country by supporting Planned Parenthood and helping all women to live informed and healthier lives.
For our offering, you may donate electronically, by check, or electronically by PayPal. If you contribute from home, you may then email admin@kuuf.org to let us know if your donation is for 1, the KUUF General Fund, 2, the Minister's Discretionary Fund to help our members in need, or 3, our monthly charitable giving recipient for December, which is Planned Parenthood. Funds that are not given a donation will go to our general fund. If you would like to donate by check, please send a check to the address on the screen. In the memo line, designate to which of the funds your offering should go. There are offering baskets in the foyer for those who are here in the sanctuary this morning. Please use them to make your offering today after the service. If this is your first time at KUUF, you are our guest. There is no need to contribute. Let there be an offering to strengthen and sustain our community, which is sacred to so many of us. Our gift of music will be followed by our children's story.
And now it is time for our story for all ages. Thank you, Liam. I'm so glad you're up here with me. You're masked so people won't be able to see your reactions to my story. There you go. So I want to tell you a Zen Buddhist story from Japan called The Tiger and the Strawberry. In Zen Buddhism stories, they're sometimes called parables or koans. They are often used for meditation or to get people thinking in a new way. So maybe this story will help get you thinking in a new way. So here it is. Once upon a time, as a man was walking through a forest, he saw a tiger peering out at him from the underbrush. As the man turned to run, he heard the tiger spring after him to give chase. Barely ahead of the tiger, running for his life, our hero came to the edge of a steep cliff. Clinging on to a strong vine, the man climbed over the cliff edge, just as the tiger was about to pounce. Hanging over the side of the cliff, with the hungry tiger pacing above him, the man looked down below him and was dismayed to see another tiger stalking the ravine far below. Just then, a tiny mouse darted out from a crack in the cliff face above him and began to gnaw at the vine that he was hanging from. At that precise moment, the man noticed a patch of wild strawberries growing from a clump of earth near where he dangled. Reaching out, he plucked one. It was plump and perfectly ripe, warmed by the sunshine. He popped the strawberry into his mouth. It was perfectly delicious. He never before realized how sweet a strawberry could taste. It was the best strawberry he ever had. The end. I wonder what happened next. Maybe he fell. Maybe he was saved. Well, I wonder if you have any tigers in your life. Any mice chewing on the vine that you are hanging from. Things that are kind of scary or kind of hard, or things that worry you. And I wonder what might be your strawberries. Those things that if you pay attention to them, they have the power to bring you joy, even when it feels the tigers are everywhere. Things that have been made even sweeter because you have really learned to appreciate them. I know, for Liam and I, we love Christmas. We love Christmas. And this year, we are really trying to pause and appreciate it for the strawberry that it is. The smell of the Christmas tree, the sound of carols, the twinkling lights. It is extra special because it comes only once a year. And this is our chance to take a bite of the strawberry or the Christmas cookie or whatever. Another thing that is really special is our song that we sing every week. And usually you see us singing it recorded. Today I'm going to sing it live, and we have our special guest performers, Liam and William. And I invite you to come and stand actually up front so everybody can see you, if you don't mind. They're going to show you the hand gestures that go along with our song. And I'm actually going to mask for the singing so that, especially those folks who are here in front of me, that I keep my aerosol to myself. So no singing among the congregation. I invite you to hum, and I invite you to do the hand gestures. This is your opportunity to participate. So yeah, get your fingers ready, your hands ready. All the folks who are watching at home, you can sing along, but please also do the hand gestures. And I will try to do this. Okay. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All around the world, all around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Everywhere I go, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, William and Liam. Excellent job. Thank you, everybody at home. And now it is time for our joys and our sorrows. Though we are often physically distanced from one another, our hearts and our spirits remain connected. When shared together, our joys are amplified and our sorrows are lessened. We have 3 today, and our first is a joy from Beth Wilson. An excited joy that we are worshiping together in person and online today for the first time in 22 months. That's a joy that we all share. We have a sorrow today from Paul Wilson, the passing of my dear, forever loving and kind sister Wilma. Paul, our hearts are with you today. And we have a joy from Bonner that he had to replace his squirrel-proof bird feeder twice since last Sunday due to design flaws. That's a joy. He hopes that the latest one will be the last. Thank you, Bonner. And let us light one more candle for all of those joys and sorrows that remain too tender to share. And now please join me for a moment of prayer or intention. Spirit of life and love, we are so grateful to be in community this morning. Gathered both in person and at home, we have longed for this moment, and we hold it now together with gratitude in all its complexity and all that remains unknown. We are grateful today to have come home. For all of this, and for all those joys and sorrows we shared this morning, for all those we hold in the silence of our hearts, we lean into the love and care of this beloved community and are held. May the spirit of life and love bring peace to us all. Amen. Thank you, Brian. Our reading this morning is from Jan Richardson. This brightness that you bear. This blessing hardly knows what to say. Speechless as it is, not simply from grief, but from gratitude that has come with it. The thankfulness that sits among the sorrow and can barely begin to tell you what it means not to be alone. This blessing knows the distances you crossed in person, in prayer, to enter into days of waiting, nights of long vigil. It knows the paths you traveled to be here. Even in the shadows, this blessing sees more than it can say and has simply come to show you the light that you have given, not to return it to you, not to reflect it back to you, but only to ask you to open your eyes and see the grace of it, the gift that shines in this brightness that you bear. And now for a moment of silent reflection. Last year, at this time, I was praying for a miracle. I mean, praying, making deals, offering bribes, raging against that God in the sky who is such an easy target. He makes it so easy, doesn't he? You don't even have to believe in him and you can feel resentful. At this time last year, Hanukkah had started, the solstice pageant I'd planned was looming up ahead, and Christmas Eve was coming. And I knew we wouldn't be together in person to celebrate it. The first time probably since the day this congregation began in 1950. I don't know if that's true, but it certainly feels true. The weight and the grief of this was really profound. And there wasn't much to do but keep calm and carry on, as they say, believing out of necessity that the separation was temporary, that the loss of our holiday gatherings was a one-off aberration, and that 2020 was just somehow exceptionally awful. And with the turning of the calendar to the new year, that we would soon find ourselves back with one another, back to normal life, back to all that we love and cherish about gathering together as a large community. We gave ourselves that holiday to songs and poems of hope about how all of this would be a distant memory before too long, a struggle over which we would triumph soon, love soon. Well, that miracle, the one I was praying for, that didn't happen soon, love soon. It hasn't happened yet. And we have all, I think I can confidently say all, spent this year with grief settled into our hearts like a permanent fixture. Our hearts so tattooed with grief. Some of us may wonder what is heart and what is grief and where it all begins and ends. Grief became, in many ways, the most permanent fixture, the one thing we could be entirely sure of. And the celebration, the gathering, the one we envisioned at the start of this pandemic, the one where we all come together like the Who's down in Whoville, hold our hands and wrap our arms around the Christmas tree and sing, well, that's not happening today. A lot of us aren't here. A good number of us have passed away. And there is no grand reunion. Instead, we enter this sanctuary today, those of us who are here, we enter it quietly, slowly, tentatively, with grief and joy and sorrow and relief and fear and many other emotions besides, unable even to hug without wondering whether we have suddenly taken too great a risk, been too careless. I can imagine those watching from home feel similarly conflicted and similarly grieving and similarly excited. This is our first service where we are multi-platform, welcoming in-person attendance while we simultaneously live stream to the folks at home. And this isn't exactly what we imagined. I sang This Little Light of Mine, masked, knowing that it would fill some of us here with joy and some of us maybe with a little anxiety and some of us probably with a mix of both. And yet, as our children's story today illustrated, we may have fallen off the cliff and found ourselves with tigers above and tigers below, a mouse chewing on the vine. And yet, there are strawberries somehow everywhere, just ripe for the plucking. In his Book of Delights, and an essay titled "Joy is Such a Human Madness," author Ross Gay writes about how grief tears a hole into us. And then he asks, but a hole through which what? Simple spiritual question. And what comes through the hole? Today we bring with us a profound sense of joy today, and a profound sense of grief and loss as well. The hole has been torn. We can't deny it. We bring with us not just the joy of being together, but the sorrow of those not here, the ache of those who can't be here, for those not ready, for those who won't be back. Many of us feel we have come home again after a long time away, and home is different, and we are different, and we may or may not be able to look past those changes, the absences, the loss, and the grief, the hole that has been torn. But a hole through which what? Ross Gay writes, and those terrible angels, the angel of annihilation, is a beautiful thing, is a maker too of joy. That joy is not a feeling or an accomplishment. It's an entering and a joining with the terrible. What if we joined our sorrows, he writes, and what if that is joy? Our sorrows indeed join together today at this threshold moment where we have moved around the spiral and found ourselves returning to this place in a new way, to one another, to face the truth of this moment, to face together all that is not. We join our sorrows and bring out of the hole of grief an immense joy. To pluck the strawberries, to cross this threshold, to discover what comes through the hole made by grief. You do not have to be here physically. To join our sorrows, we don't all have to share the same physical space. If there is anything we have learned this year, it is that. We can find joy together even when no one is in the sanctuary. Many of our services last year, I was leading worship from our spare bedroom. And still, we hung from that vine with tigers all around, and we tasted and enjoyed many a strawberry. When Ross Gay writes of delight, he writes of delight, what he calls a false etymology. Delight, suggesting both of light and without light, both concurrently, being of and without at once, or, in other words, joy. He argues that joy is born exactly this way. It can only be born this way. When you are hanging from the vine with tigers on all sides and time is running out, the strawberry isn't merely a simple pleasure, though sometimes the story is interpreted that way. The perfect taste of the strawberry is transformed from simple pleasure into a profound joy because of the tigers and the mouse. And maybe we feel that the grief of this moment in history, whether personal or global, that this grief is remarkable. The horrors that rage around us in modern times, including our own planetary extinction, feel remarkable in their number and their depth and their power. But the story of the tiger and the strawberry was not written for this moment in history. It was written because this is the condition of life. We always and forever have tigers around us. Always and forever, the mouse is chewing the vine. None of us get out of here alive. And we must pause to taste the strawberry that becomes all the sweeter, all the more precious, because it is fleeting, because life is fragile, because it ends. And none of this was ever meant to last forever. And the suffering that occurs when we face that truth is a natural companion of joy. In his poem on joy and sorrow, Khalil Gibran writes, "Your joy is your sorrow unmasked, and the selfsame well from which your laughter rises was oftentimes filled with your tears. And how else can it be? The deeper that sorrow carves into your being, the more joy you can contain. Is not the cup that holds your wine the very cup that was burned in the potter's oven? And is not the lute that soothes your spirit the very wood that was hollowed with knives? When you are joyous, look deep into your heart, and you shall find it is only that which has given you sorrow that is giving you joy. When you are sorrowful, look again into your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight." Some of you say joy is greater than sorrow, and others say, nay, sorrow is greater. But I say unto you, they are inseparable. Together they come. And when one sits alone with you at your board, remember that the other is asleep upon your bed. The task before us then is to face it all. The Buddhists have given us a practice they call mindfulness. And it is really in some form or another part of every major religion. The practice of being present to this moment with its joy and its sorrow, the great gaping hole of grief and all of that sacred sweetness which then comes through the hole. In this moment together, we honor both the sorrow and the joy. So I invite you to take a breath. That is the first trick of mindfulness. Take a breath, wherever you are. If you are here in this sanctuary, I invite you to look around. Be brave in this moment and remember what was. Call to mind the faces of those you know will never return here. Bring into your heart all that was and will never be again. To feel the joy fully that is present here today, we must also feel the sadness. If you are at home watching us online, I invite you to sit with any feelings of loss or disconnection that you may have at being physically distanced from this sanctuary. the grief and loss of what you've had to let go of to stay well, to stay safe, whether mentally or physically. I invite all of us just to sit and take a breath. Sit with any feelings of grief or loss that arise at this moment. When you are sorrowful, look again in your heart, and you shall see that in truth you are weeping for that which has been your delight. And only that which has given you sorrow can give you joy. You can take one more breath. I invite you now to look for the strawberries. There are some here, but I'm talking about the greater strawberries. What in this room or in your space at home is precious and sacred to you? What delicious sweetness can you find? Perhaps you can see or touch something that has been made even sweeter because of the sorrow. If you are at home, it might be the comfort of your pajamas, the feeling of being safe and warm, unhurried and unbothered with your warm cup of tea or coffee. If you are here in the sanctuary, it might be looking out the windows during my sermon, which I know is a spiritual practice for many of us here. The landscape behind me never fails to capture the imagination. And to sit here in the sanctuary, that view has been made even more precious, even more joyful, because of all this time we have been separated from it. For me, from this view, I am a witness to a sea of strawberries. I can imagine all of your sweet faces, those of you masked, and those of you at home who I can imagine are watching. And it brings me so much joy to know that we are still here. We are still connected. We are still one gathered community. We know well what comes through the whole of profound grief, what accompanies and follows sorrow and heartbreak. It is joy. It is gratitude. It is love. May we share this joy and love today with one another. This blessing that must be blessed. It must be conferred. It must be shared. Together today, may we witness to the sorrow and the joy that come as one. May we continue to grieve openly, rejoice without holding back, honor in all its complexity the condition of this life, the tigers on all sides, and the mouse as it gnaws on the vine. And may we take every opportunity to taste and truly appreciate the strawberries. And now for our closing hymn, We Laugh, We Cry. We strength of love, and we have found a joy being together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see, even to question truly is an answer. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. All of us here in this sanctuary and all of us attending at home. Before we close, I want to remind everyone here of the offering baskets, which did not get passed today, and they will be sitting outside in the vestibule for all of our services for a while as we try to limit the things that we share in common touch. We are also trying to limit our time together inside. So, at the end of this service, after I process out of the sanctuary, I invite you to follow me out, and we can all visit together more safely outside. Next Sunday, we will only be live streaming. We will not be gathering here in the sanctuary, but we will be back both in the sanctuary and at home with our multi-platform service on December 19th. If you are with us online, you are invited to our coffee time after the service on Zoom. The password is coffee with a capital C, and the meeting ID will appear on your screen. And now let us extinguish our chalice with these words from the Reverend Leslie Takahashi. All that we have ever loved and all that we have ever been stands with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create. A deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, and a deeper joy in this life that we share. Amen, Ashe, and blessed be.